Hey guys, what's up? My name is Zach, and today I'm going to be doing a 2018 Senate election prediction. So this is more topical, I think, compared to 2020 election predictions, considering that this is going to be in five or so months, I believe. So let's just start out with the safe states. Obviously, the West Coast would remain safe for the Democratic candidates there. New York, most of the Northeast, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. For New Jersey, I realize that Bob Menendez has been going through corruption charges for this past year or so, but he was cleared on them, and I realize that will hurt his campaign overall. But I would still call the state as safe, not just based on the candidates, but based on how the state's been trending overall as well. Delaware, Maryland, all safe blue states. Vermont, safe blue in the case for independent Bernie Sanders. Now for safe red states, which there are not a lot of. Wyoming, Nebraska, Utah, since Mitt Romney is the Republicans' candidate, would be safe red. New Mexico, safe blue, I would say. Mississippi, main Senate election, the special election I'll talk about in a second. Virginia, I would still call it safe blue, considering that Tim Kaine's a pretty well-known senator from this state, and same with Minnesota. Amy Klobuchar is pretty well liked in this state, and I don't see that becoming a lean. And the same shading rules don't apply here. As for the shading, I realize that for the past election videos it used to be less than 5%, over 5%, and 10% or up. But this time, I'm not basing that. I'm just basing it on how likely it is to go to either candidate, not the actual percentage. Just to clarify that. As for Texas, I realize that many people look to the state as a hopeful Democratic pickup, but I think it's a bit of a shot in the dark. I think that Beto O'Rourke is probably the best candidate the Democrats could run in this state currently, but I would still rate this state as likely red for Ted Cruz. Hawaii, obviously, safe blue. As for Tennessee, I would rate this as the same as Texas. Phil Bredesen is the Democratic candidate, and he's the former Tennessee governor. He left with a very high approval rating, but this is still a solid red state. And Marsha Blackburn, the Republicans' candidate, is pretty well known and pretty well liked in this state. So yeah, same rating as Texas. So Mississippi's special election. I see a lot of predictions having this as this shade rather than solid red, and I think that's only because of Mississippi's some of Mississippi's rules when it comes to Senate elections here. But let's be honest with ourselves. The Democrats are not going to win here unless there's a major upset like we saw in Alabama. So solid red is what I would rate that as. Florida we'll come back to. As for Maine, Eric Brackey is I might be pronouncing that very wrong, but he's the Republicans' candidate. I don't see him being a formidable opponent against Angus King, who is the independent senator who caucuses with the Democrats. So I'm leaning between doing this as either safe blue or likely blue. I would rate this as safe blue. Angus King is very well liked in this state. I don't see that flipping. Michigan, I would rate as likely. Just because Debbie Stabenow is pretty well elected in this state, and the Republicans still haven't announced their candidate. So, yeah, likely blue. Same with Pennsylvania. I mean, a candidate has been announced here for the Republicans, Lou Barletta. He could be a bit of competition for Bob Casey, but Bob Casey is still pretty well known in this state, and I would rate this as likely blue. As for Montana, I realize that overall this state is considered mostly to be solid red if it's like a presidential election, but the Republicans have not gotten a formidable candidate to challenge John Tester, who is very well liked. Well, not very well liked, but considerably well liked in the state. I don't see them finding any formidable challenger to him, so I would rate this as likely likely blue. Many people might disagree with that, but just looking at the facts, looking at the lack of decent candidates on the Republican side, and looking at Jon Tester being a pretty formidable candidate for the Democrats in general, as a conservative Democrat, likely blue. Okay, so these are the states that I think are going to be the most difficult for me to call, that I think can go either way. The rest of these states, Minnesota's special election I would rate as likely. Yeah, likely. Just because Tina Smith, again, is pretty well liked, and the Republicans still haven't found a formidable candidate to go against her, so yeah, likely. Now the rest of these states, the rest of these elections, I think are going to be pretty difficult to call. And to start out, I will be flipping Florida as, I'm going to say likely. And I realize that many people are going to disagree with that, but Bill Nelson, for one, is very well liked in the state. He appeals to the elderly population to some degree in Florida. He appeals to the conservative Democrats here in this state. And given the shootings, I think that's going to be a huge boost for Democrats in this state. I mean, it's a huge boost for Democrats overall, come 2018 elections, I guarantee, but particularly in Florida, I guarantee it'll be a pretty big boost. So that's why I would rate it as likely. Let's go over to Arizona. So Kristen Sinema and the Republican candidates whose name escapes me right now, but Kristen Sinema is the bisexual candidate for the Democrats. There is a Democratic trend in this state, and I do think that the Democrats can pick up a seat in this state. I think that that's pretty likely, given the blue wave overall, and Kristen Sinema being a pretty formidable candidate for the Democrats to run. Now Nevada, Dean Heller is probably the most unpopular senator in the United States at this point, and Jackie Rosen is a very well-liked representative from Nevada, so for that reason, I would rate Nevada as likely blue. Just given the lineup that there is, Dean Heller being very unpopular, like I said, and Jackie Rosen being very popular, it'd be likely. And given the fact that Hillary Clinton did win this state in 2016, this is the one Republican state, the Republican Senate held state in 2018 that Hillary Clinton won. So yeah, I would rate that as likely. Going over to West Virginia, this is a very solid red state, and many people look at this state and wonder how a Democrat even holds this state in general. But Joe Manchin has done an excellent job, if you ask me, at maintaining a conservative Democratic record, and the fact that there doesn't seem to be many Republican frontrunners in the state overall, I would rate this as likely blue. Okay. Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, very well liked in the state. I haven't taken a very good look at the Republican candidates going against her in this state, but I would still, regardless, rate this as likely blue, given Tammy Baldwin's record and overall approval in the state. Okay, now to Ohio. Sherrod Brown is a very well-liked senator in this state. I would rate this as lean blue, just because I don't think there's many notable Republican frontrunners in this state. I'll have to take a closer look, but Sherrod Brown, very well liked for a state like Ohio. I would rate this as likely lean blue. All right, so let's just look at the numbers overall. It's 48 to 49. Republicans just need one more seat to hold a majority, since there's the VP factor, and there's 3 more states left to call. And they're the 3 states that I think that really could go either way. Every single prediction I've looked at is very indecisive on these 3 states for various reasons. North Dakota, Heidi Heitkamp won this state by less than 1%, I believe, in the last election, and it's going to be very hard for Democrats overall. I think that Heidi Heitkamp is probably the best candidate that the Democrats could run in this state, but it's still going to be hard. Kevin Cramer is the Republicans' candidate, and he is very well liked. He's the at-large representative for the state. It's going to be a tough match. Missouri, an overall red state. Claire McCaskill is a conservative Democrat who I think has a pretty good record in this state for approval. Josh Hawley, I think the Republicans could have probably found a better candidate than him, and for that reason, this is the first pure toss I'm gonna call as lean blue, just because Claire McCaskill has a very good reputation in the state, and I think could overcome Josh Hawley. As for North Dakota, currently I would rate this state as lean blue. I would rate this state as lean blue just because there's that incumbent advantage that I think could be taken into consideration. Heidi Heitkamp's conservative Democratic appeal overall in this state, I think, will help her. It'll be a tough match. This could probably change next time I do another 2018 election prediction, but for now, I would give Heidi Heitkamp the slight advantage over Kevin Cramer. And this gives Democrats 50 and Republicans 49. And now for Indiana. Joe Donnelly has been losing approval in this state, I think, overall. Republicans have two very good candidates in this state who are currently in a very vicious match for who's going to be the candidate. And I think that the Republicans have a very good lineup in this state, like I said. Two very good candidates whose names I can't remember, but two very good candidates, two representatives who are very well liked in the state. I would rate this state as lean red for that reason. Okay, so now it's a 50-50 split in the Senate, giving the Republicans a technical majority with the VP factor. The Democrats have a gain of 1 seat. Like I said, this map, particularly these 3 states, can change drastically, I think, in these next few months. I hope to do another prediction. Definitely things will change in this map. But yeah, feel free to comment any suggestions for future election prediction videos, any comments. I'd love to have your thoughts on this on these predictions, and thanks for watching.